So when you're in business and you want to retire, the first thing you think about is, how do I get out of the business? How do I realise my assets? Do I just put the business on the open market, or do I try and give it to the employees or sell it to the employees for a management buyout? And then you try it and you put it on the market and nobody's interested. Nobody wants to buy it. What do? The employees aren't interested, you're stuck. Do you just call in the auctioneers, sell it all up, get your assets, and then right off into the sunset? So that's what I want to talk about. So I went on a journey transferring a, whoops, sorry, I'm out of that. I got rid of it on here. Transferring a family manufacturing business, a traditional business that had been around for 50 years. And I went on a 9-year journey and I explored a number of succession options until I actually stumbled on cooperatives, and that succeeded. So I just want to talk a little bit about that. What I do now, I actually want to encourage the model that we've created, and it's successful, and we've put a model in place that others can follow. So I want to encourage baby boomers to be socially responsible and think about how they approach their retirement and the impacts that'll have on not only their workers, but loss of skills in manufacturing. Manufacturing's been, because I'm in manufacturing, that's my focus, but manufacturing's been going down for quite some time. A lot of businesses have been closing and we're losing skills in Australia. So if we can keep those skills, keep the employees actively engaged in work, they can reinvent the business with all this Internet of Things and manufacturing 4.0 and automation all coming in. If we can keep them employed, they will reinvent themselves and the business to go forward in the future, rather than getting thrown onto the unemployment heap and then the government having to support them and retrain them to move forward in the future. So, and we all know about how when we get people engaged in employeeship, we get better equity and also better ethics in business. It's a hot topic, quite discussed widely. So an interesting thing I discovered on my journey, I found a statistic out of the States through an employee ownership group. They did studies on firms that had employee ownership and firms that didn't have employee ownership, and they had a statistic that showed that those that are engaged in employee ownership have 1.9 times at home wealth. That means that from the benefits of employee ownership, they can take their participating management skills, their financial skills that they're learning in employee ownership, and apply it into their family. They can negotiate better with their wives. They can then organise their finances better, budget, and generally improve their well-being. And then they can take it out into their communities, and they can take it into the P&Cs, the soccer clubs, and we can actually raise the standards of communities if we can get clusters of employee ownerships in communities. And that's been shown in empirical studies in Italy as well, where over there, there's David Ertl, I think, that did a study, and it showed that where a town had more than 60% employee ownership participation, there was better health, less crime, a whole heap of benefits. The people were even more interested in politics, believe it or not, because of employee ownership. So that's just a picture to give you a bit of an idea of what CMAC Industries is all about. As you can see, it's a very traditional manufacturing firm. It's a male-dominated firm. We've just got 2 ladies in there somewhere. And yeah, it's a 50-year-old business, so very traditional. So just to give you some background information on CMAC, so you get the feel of what happened. So it was a 50-year-old business. I was second generation. My parents are retired. All my kids have worked in the company. Children worked in the company for a period of time. They weren't interested at all. So there was one remaining director, which was my mum. My father had passed away several years, so she was getting around about 85 years of age and was still responsible for the business. And I was the only family member in it. So it started off as a sheet metal shop, and it grew over the years. And we developed niche products that kept us alive and going in the manufacturing business. If we stayed traditional, we wouldn't have survived, but by bringing niche products on board, we managed to keep going. So over the years, I know it was more by accident than by strategy, we had actually acquired 7 businesses. Westacott Engineering was an engineering business, so we added engineering to our sheet metal. Parramatta Tank Works, your drinking water tanks, so we got involved in that. Linfast Gear Cutting, that was an engineering gear cutting company which had CNC machinery, and we acquired that. Then L&A Springs, that was a horticultural company that did shade houses and spring benching for wholesale nurseries and botanical gardens and things like that, so we got into the horticultural industry. Cord Corporation is industrial acoustics, so we picked up that. Stanton Engineering, that was a firm that made a machine that cleaned transformer oil for substations and power stations. So we got involved in that. And finally, Anderson Engineering is it was a potting machine for the nursery industry. It was a leading product in that field. So very diverse, very niche. We had 43 employees, and they were all long-serving employees. We've got employees there that are over 30 years, and I think our average employee retention rate was around about 7.5 years, and that included apprentices. So, and we had a turnover of $4 to $5 million. So, what motivated me on this journey? At the time, I was 54 years of age. I'm 64 years of age now. And as I said, I had no family interested, no extended family. They had worked there. They told me the margins were too small. It's one mistake and you're in trouble. I don't want to work inside. It's too intense. All those type of things. And they were right. So it was post GST and we were getting into a lot of trouble. So there was a lot of businesses closing around us. And I needed to find some way of sustaining the business, but also put a succession plan in place. And I wanted to finish well. I didn't just want to get to the end and say, that's it, I'm out of here. And employee ownership appealed to my Christian morals. So over 9 years, there was 5 different succession attempts. First one, because I was interested in employee ownership, I tried an ESOP, and we put that in at great expense and a lot of time, and that went for about 4 years, but it didn't succeed because the ESOP was based around transferring, let's call it super profits, into a trust to distribute, buy shares to distribute to the staff. And post GST, we didn't make the super profits. We made small profits, broke even a couple of losses. So over a 4-year period, it didn't succeed, but it did motivate all the staffs to keep us active and live in a declining market. Then I tried a sale to the staff. After the ESOP failed, okay, staff. Well, staff being all the employees, not just the management. And staff are risk averse and a little bit distrusting of the owners. They got can't get any advice. They've got no professional advice. They've got no money. And and the biggest thing we learned from that is that staff can't negotiate with their boss because their jobs are on the line. And that's the lesson I learned from that. So sales to the staff fell over after 99 months of discussion. So then the family put the pressure on me because they said put it on the open market. So I put it on the open market and actually advertised the company. And it was on the open market for 14 months. We got offers and tie kickers, but basically nobody was interested in a manufacturing business. So it shocked me. We were expecting, and when people gave me prices between 800,000 and 1.8 million is what we could get for the business. But nobody wanted the business, so it was basically worth nothing. So what happens with a market sale? I got some offers. Then towards the end of the 14 months, I actually had a manager come to me and say, I want to buy this section of the business. And it would have been, we could have got $200,000 and see you later, good luck fellas. But we didn't, the family rejected that because it means splitting up the business, and there's all complications around who got what customers and everything like that because we share our customer base. And then I stumbled on to employee-owned cooperatives, and after, from when I first found out about them, it took probably 18 months. 18 months, and it succeeded. So that was back in 2017, and so that's 2.5 years ago. So part of the way I came across worker cooperatives was I got myself educated. I actually did an online course while the business was up for sale through Oxford University in the UK on employee ownership for the 21st century. And I discovered about worker co-ops and how they succeeded in Europe and UK and the States. I thought, well, if it can be done overseas, why can't it be done in Australia here? So this was a top-down initiative. So what's we got here? So I've already spoken to you. Employees are very risk averse. Then they see job security as a priority. Now, in all this process, over this 9 years, I was involved with Dr. Anthony Jensen from Newcastle University, and he actually did staff surveys all the way along. Every 12 months or 6 months, he did a staff survey. And job security always came out on top. It's the most important thing to the staff. Now, employees, yep, no access to funds. They're all trying to pay off their homes. They're not well off, a lot of them, and they've got a lot of issues, and they don't have access to professional advice. And like I said, they can't negotiate with the boss. So we had to overcome all those things. So as I said, no, I haven't said it. Education and training, we had to bring the staff up to understand all about that. So to bring cultural change, because we're a very old-fashioned company, there was no unions involved, but there was union members in the place. And yeah. So we had to get the staff to understand finances. They now request profit and loss sheets up on the boards every month. We had to get them to understand each other's job roles, because I'll divert a little bit here. Most consultants talk about that the company is formed, and then you go through a crisis type situation where you sort yourself out, then you perform, and then off you go. So 12 months into it, the staff are saying, what do you do? Why can she go and do that? And what's the general manager do all day? He just sits up there in the office doing nothing. So you had to educate them in the whole processes of the company. And staff can't think strategically long-term. You know, long-term to them is the next school holiday break. Not, you know, what are we going to be in 6 months' time? What machines are we going to need in a year's time? You know, so strategic planning was just totally foreign to them. And also understanding company KPIs. What are the key performance indicators? So then we had to participate in management practices, try and encourage that and develop that. And there was also, there was misunderstandings around what an owner is and a worker is, and there's those different hats you have to wear in an organisation, and that had to be sorted. But one of the biggest issues we had is the tension between making profits and training people and developing them, because you had to take them off the shop floor and you lose hours. When you've got 40 employees and you take them out for an hour, you multiply that by $125 an hour, and it's quite a significant loss of income. And when you're just breaking even and trying to make ends meet, trying to find work, there's a big tension in that all the time. Right, so the process of creating the worker cooperative is that I learned from my previous lessons that you can't negotiate with your staff. So I engaged a business coach. He actually didn't know anything about cooperatives, but I wanted him as a mediator to go between me and the staff, and also engaged Dr. Anthony Jensen, who is an expert in cooperatives and has a lot of experience overseas and that, for those two to work together. So Anthony was like an independent who wasn't in the negotiation or the mediating process. So he just floated around answering people's questions and bring everybody up to speed. So it was for the academics, it was a participative action research process, or PAR. So that's where, to set the co-op up, there was debates between the staff and the mediator and the academic, trying to sort things out and come up with solutions to put the rules in place. So there's discussions around that, hierarchy, conflict and cooperation, through the leadership structure, how that was going to work in the company. And I might pause on that. We started off with a CEO for 18 months. We're now CEOs stepped down, and we have 3 managers now at the top who are directly responsible to the board. So we've flattened it out, so there's no one person in charge now. The managers, one's in charge of manufacturer, one's in charge of all our external stuff, so sales and marketing, and the other one's administration and finance. And they work together as a team, and the board reviews them, and they're responsible to the board. And with Anthony on board, we were able to put together the model that was worked, that is overseas and in other places. And also Anthony was very involved in the cooperatives in the 1980s and did studies around why they failed previously in Australia. So we could put things into place to try and mitigate demutualisation or closure or whatever. And so there's the economic and social discussion. Now the network governance structure is very similar to any other company. It works exactly the same way. The only difference in that is you can see there's a staff committee there who has a member sit on the board. But it's all about communication, up, down, sideways, everywhere. That's critically important. I might just go back. That's an interesting one. We were talking about this a while. You see there's a lady in there. That lady has now been, she's our truck driver, forklift driver, and she's now on the board, and she's just amazing, just amazing. Straight shooter, demanding things to be done, demanding changes, and so I get excited about that because I can see how the education standards are rising in the workforce. That lady, she probably doesn't like me saying it, but she used to be a ward of the state. And we found her through different channels and tried to help her out. So the big question for baby boomers is, how did we unlock the value in this? So today, I'll just have a drink. So today I remain as one director. I work 1 day a week, keeps me up to speed, and I'm one member, one vote, same as everybody on the floor. And it was very tricky stepping out of my role as CEO, and my former employees are now my boss. So you have to work through all that personally. But anyway, this is about unlocking value. So the value in that is it keeps me relevant as a business owner. In my new role in retirement, I'm keeping up to date with business practices. Yeah, I'm not a has-been. And it gives me the opportunity to do this type of thing and promote cooperatives and employee ownership. So all the owners' liabilities and personal guarantees are all removed. So my mum, at age 85, got to see her deeds for her home for the first time in her life. And she's got no worries about it now. She doesn't have to worry about me and my health issues and the business. And so, yeah. Now, we sold the business to the employees, but we didn't sell the properties. So now we get a guaranteed rental income every month, where previous years, that rental used to come out, but quite often it'd go back in to buy some equipment or machinery or support the cash flow or something like that. So now we're actually making more money, or my mum's making more money receiving a regular income than what she did when she ran a $5 million business. So the co-op is paying off vendor finance. So they're achieving that as well as paying the rent. And there's also, because it's a family business, there's a lot of emotional satisfaction in seeing that all the efforts of my father in establishing the company and working through the night and all the sacrifices he's made hasn't been wasted, and there's a legacy left. So everybody has different benefits, but these are the values that we in our family unlocked. So just in conclusion, employee-owned cooperatives represent a viable exit strategy. And it's something to be considered. It creates decent work, it preserves jobs and skills, and it sustains manufacturing, in our case, to continue in Australia. Now, we're provided now through my journey and proof, a concept that this model can be worked, but we needed to get it out there and try and promote it and get others to consider this as a good option to consider for their retirement plans. So by encouraging employee ownership, as I said before, we can make Australia a better place.